Hey, I'm Shay Warner, and you are listening to the Casual Cattle Conversations podcast. Whether you are a seasoned rancher or just curious about the cattle world, this podcast dives into the stories, science, and strategies shaping the future of ranching. Let's get started and keep your herd ahead of the herd. Today, we are going to visit with Tucker Brown about how social media can be an alternative revenue source for ranchers and maybe even a way for the next generation to return home. Tucker and I dive into how his journey has progressed, exactly how impactful social media can be as a revenue source, and share a few tips for those who are interested. But with that, let's visit with Tucker. Does tax season make you want to bang your head against the wall? Is billing a bad word in your household? Does meeting with your ag lender make your blood pressure rise? Stress a little less with cattle management software, Performance Beef. It tracks important feed, financial, and health data, all in one system. The result? You can pull inventories, detailed financials, and invoices in minutes. Get ahead for next year's tax season. Visit performancelivestockanalytics.com to learn more, and you can find that link in the show notes. All right, Tucker, welcome to the podcast. Yet again, another trailblazer on the podcast.
Yeah, man, what a good group of folks that we got to know doing that Trailblazers deal. How cool was that?
Yeah, it was awesome. So I'm really excited to have you on the show today. I'm sure a lot of people listening are already familiar with who you are and what you do, but I'm excited to dive into that and talk about how it plays a bigger role in your life than maybe some people might expect, especially for the younger generation who's really attracted to this form of alternative revenue and outreach. But before we dive into that, help the listeners get to know you by sharing why you bet on the beef industry.
It's really easy to sell what people want to buy, and beef is already one of those things. And so man, what a great time to be in the industry. It's super easy to bet on beef. Beef is the big winner right now as far as what people want to eat and what they want to buy. So it's just kind of up to folks like you and me to keep that going. That's why I bet on the beef industry.
Absolutely. Now, you come from a rich history and legacy in the beef industry with your family's operation. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, just in case there is someone out there who's not familiar with who you are?
So I grew up on the R.A. Brown Ranch. My parents would be the fifth generation, and I've got three little girls that I'm raising now that are going to be the seventh, obviously. So it's a family business, and as you know, that's not always easy, but I wouldn't change it for anything. So I love working with love working with my family and having. There's four generations on the ranch right now. My grandparents all the way down to my kids, and so it's pretty special to have that. I get to work with my parents quite a bit right now, with them managing and running the ranch, and me coming back 8 years ago. And so selling bulls is our main thing. It's registered Black Angus, Red Angus, and Sim Angus bulls. That's what we're working on every day. We also raise some quarter horses, and my brother, he's kind of the quarter horse guy. He's got that itch of training and breeding horses, and so we get to work pretty well together. My brother likes to have cattle to work his horses, and I like to have horses to work my cattle, so we work pretty well.
That does balance out, so good for you guys. Now, you are on the ranch day to day with your own responsibilities along with the others in your family, but can you share a little bit about how you are active and involved in the social media space? Because we're really going to talk about that as an alternative revenue and what people need to know if they want to pursue that today.
So social media, I kind of stumbled into this, for lack of a better term, influencing. Maybe you have a better word for it, but content creation.
I don't like the word influencing, but I don't have a better word for it.
Same, yeah, same. I enjoy telling the story of ag, and I have a love for media anyway. This will be my 12th year of doing sports broadcasting, so like doing football games, basketball games. I have a love of media and competition, and I grew up on the ranch, and I came back 8 years ago after got my undergrad at Lubbock Christian, and then I went to TCU Ranch Management. And part of coming back to the ranch, I could come back in two ways. Number one, if there was a job available and I was the man for the job, I could get hired, or I could come back with a business plan to grow the ranch to bring more income to pay for my salary. And so I kind of did a mixture of those. And it was the hunting that first started, kind of got me back home, as well as just working on the ranch day to day, feeding bulls and doctoring and riding and raising them and learning genetics. But during COVID, we couldn't do the marketing that we normally do. And so I kind of fell towards social media to be able to get in front of people. And what I found out was the videos that I thought was just having fun with, where I thought it would be reaching our bull customers, was actually reaching beef consumers. And so I was like, oh, maybe that was kind of fun. I mean, the videos do pretty well. I can still reach my bull customers along the way. And so I just kept on doing it. Now I've stumbled into, I guess, 4 years later, I've stumbled into having over 700,000 followers, and I have one person hired to help me do that full time. And this year, it's made a big change for my family now, whether it's for opportunities that it's brought or with monetary value. It's been quite a ride. It's all been new, which I also like too.
So when you started, did you start with like the ranch page, or were you starting on your own page?
I did start on the ranch page. That's kind of where my first videos went. It was about the bull sale. I actually made a video making fun of my dad as the seed stock super puncher. Went on the ranch page. And at that time, there's 17 members of my generation in our family. And my parents' generation, there's four siblings and they're all married. And so I kind of have this, big heritage, very serious family ranching mindset. And social media wasn't necessarily a part of that yet. It is now, but at the time it wasn't quite yet. And so they're like, hey, if you want to post those funny things, like your cheesy, funny videos, you can do that on your own page. But let's keep the ranch page serious. Let's talk about bulls and genetics. And so I just went to my page and I just really fell in love with how can I creatively share what I'm doing on the ranch in a way that our consumer understands. And as I continued searching through that and learning and going to things like Trailblazers, gosh, it's just really changed the way that I think and that I see as I'm either trying to make content or advertise for anything, for bulls, for horses, for semen for AI, all that stuff.
So you've already shared that, when you started, you almost kind of stumbled into it, and it was kind of a pivot during COVID, which I think a lot of us can relate to, and it's transitioned into something where you have someone hired to help you manage and take on that because of how timely it can be, I'm assuming, and partially because I know from the podcast side of things. But is there more you want to share about how that journey has transitioned from where you started and to what you've done today? I mean, what were kind of some of those levels, if you would call them, if that makes sense? Because people can take this as serious or as lighthearted as they want to, just like anything.
Yeah, you make a good point. You don't have to jump into social media to be an influencer. Like I didn't do that. I just jumped in because I loved making the videos. I loved sharing our way of life. And it actually kind of started when I went to Lubbock Christian University, which is not an ag school. And being in Lubbock, Texas, in the panhandle of Texas, I thought, everybody would know what was going on in ag. And they knew a lot about cotton farming and what corn and cotton looked like. But as far as the cattle side, man, my friends just didn't know. And I don't hold that against them, but I really kind of held it against myself because we had not shared what was going on. And so that really changed the way that I looked at things, because for 4 years I just saw how the questions that they were asking. And so it was just kind of for fun. Like, yeah, I love talking about my cows. Let's talk about them. I love talking about my horses. Let's talk about them. And it just kind of started with, I would make like $50 a month off of it. And I was like, nice. Like we can go have a steak dinner. My wife and I can do that. And as it just stumbled in, and I had one video do extremely well, and it alone paid me almost $1,000. And I was like, oh, I could make this a thing. I could make this a business. This could really make a difference. This doesn't, maybe more than just a steak dinner. And as of this year, we've made the decision. My wife was a school teacher in town, and because of social media, we've been able to make the decision for her to stay home and be with our three girls and with me and be at the ranch more, which has been incredible. So yeah, it can be your $50 steak dinner and have fun with it. But I just really dove in. Dove in head first, and it's really made a difference in our family's life, and then for the ranch too, because I think we get more exposure. I think we get more exposure from that, just getting in front of people's faces, and so that when we go to conventions, when we go to ranch rodeos, that people see what we do, and I think that makes a difference.
Do you want to touch on the time commitment piece of it as you've become more committed to it? Because yeah, you talked about, that $50 a month to you had a video take off and now it's done incredible things and your wife is able to stay home with your kids.
Yeah, the time commitment was very short at first. I would pull out my phone and take the video. It wouldn't take me very long. I would edit it when I get home. And so making a video once a week or once every other week really wasn't much of a time commitment. But once I saw the value that it could bring, is really when I started to dive in. And so as it's brought more value to the ranch has also seen the value that it brings. And so they're kind of letting me ride this wave of what I'm doing. And so over the past 2 years, I've actually stepped back from responsibility on the ranch and moved towards more responsibility of social media and marketing. And I'm still on the ranch every day. Like this morning, we were weaning calves, and I mean, every morning I'm at the saddle house and we're getting ready to ranch. But my responsibilities have stepped back, and I get to do more things like this, whether that's being on a podcast, having an episode of my own, or just brainstorming about what can I share. And I can't leave the ranch because that's where a lot of my content comes from, right? And I don't want to. I like where I'm at, but my content comes from the things that we do on the ranch. And I think that's the best part, is that I don't have to really be super creative because I just share what we're doing on the ranch. Like right now, my content is about weaning and what we do and why.
Absolutely. Now, with monetization, have you primarily gone the route of having, say, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube pay you for the traction you're getting there, whether it's views, engagement? All the platforms are a little different. Do you prioritize more like brand partnerships with other companies, or do you do a combination of both? I mean, do you want to talk about that? Because I think there is I always get the question, does your podcast make money and how does it make money? And I think a lot of that ties back into social media too, where people, unless you're in it, you don't necessarily understand.
It's definitely from both. Competition is good. And when those platforms are competing for your time, it really changes how each platform pays. And learning about that's interesting to me, especially the past 4 years, just jumping into that and learning. But I do a combination of the two. I would say more than 50% of the income would come from brand partnerships. And I've been I've been a stickler of trying to work with long-term brand partnerships that want to work with me, on a year contract or multi-year contract, that they're products that I already use or that I use every day on the ranch, whether it's shirts, whether it's, weed spray, whether it's boots, like things that I'm already wearing that I can or things that I'm already using that I can just put into on all my platforms without making it feel like a commercial, because people don't want to be sold to, I don't think, on the socials. Like I really thrive in the edutainment or the entertainment side of putting in some education with it. And that's where I thrive the most. And I have the most fun also, because making a commercial isn't always, very fun. And that's why I do it, because it is fun.
So with that, as people are maybe thinking through if this is an option for them to start something like this and come back to the ranch because it provides that revenue, what do they need to know before they start just thinking, to make sure it is for them?
It's so easy to get discouraged at the beginning because we feel like we have such a cool story to tell, but learning to tell that story is extremely important, because our customers or our viewers have to be able to understand it for those videos to do well, for you to get those views, those likes, those follows, that traction. Because posting for a long time and not getting any of that is really frustrating. And so that helps. And so doing things like Trailblazers, or getting my Masters of Beef Advocacy, the MBA, which is a free online platform, check it out. I know you've done it, but definitely check that out. That helped me relearn to tell that story in a way that's super easy to understand and that people are more willing to listen to, rather than like attacking my listener I'm like inviting them to join me on what I'm doing. And I think that's what the storytelling of agriculture has missed for a long time, because we've been, rightly so, we've been very defensive because of the regulations or the laws or maybe things that have been thrown at our way. And so we haven't been as inviting, which is completely understandable. I'm just trying to change that to, rather than playing defense, like inviting them in to see why we do some of the things we do.
Absolutely. And it's really kind of our time to shine when you think about the protein push and carnivore diets and a lot of that stuff that's coming into play now.
Yeah, great point. I mean, the spotlight's on us, and I think Ag's been wanting, kind of wanting that for a while. Why is nobody listening? And now we have the spotlight, and we're like, oh, and we kind of have this stage fright of like, what do we say? I don't want to get in trouble. And so it has been cool to see Ag jump out in this space of social media, podcast, YouTube, things like that, to really take that spotlight seriously and share what we're doing. But how cool is it? It just goes back to like beef is wanted by Americans and by people all around the world. That's the coolest thing about being in this business, is that beef is at all-time high demand, and it's a cool time to be in ag.
Want to boost your herd's profitability? Choose Red Angus, the beef industry's most favored female. Registrations are up 24% over the past decade thanks to their docile temperaments, adaptability, and premium carcass quality. The Red Angus Association of America has rebranded its feeder calf program as Angus Access and partnered with Breeder, giving commercial cattlemen cutting-edge digital tools that make it easier than ever to capture premiums. Elevate your operation with Red Angus. And after this podcast, tune into Red Angus Remarks. So Tucker, a couple times in our conversation already, you've brought up that you enjoy the creating, you enjoy the media, you've always kind of enjoyed that aspect of whatever you're doing in life. How important is that for people to consider, do they enjoy, maybe being in the spotlight, or at the minimum creating maybe different media pieces before they dive into this?
Yeah, that's a great point. Another thing to pull back to that, whenever you do post stuff that's going to be for everybody to see, like, you will get negative comments. Like, that's just a part of the world today. So you better be ready for that, which I had to get used to that because I wasn't used to it. Now it like thrives my fire. It gets me excited, and I like it because it means that I'm reaching people who have not seen this side of agriculture. So it gets me fired up. But yeah, if you're not the creative type, or you don't enjoy the content creation, it's probably not for you. And there's a whole lot of other ways to get involved in advocacy besides social media. I mean, you can get involved at your local level, at your state cattle association, and there's plenty of ways to become much more of an advocate. Maybe not much more, but like there's much more opportunities than just social media to be an advocate. So, making those posts, staying consistent, and sharing the truth is so important. And if you don't like it, yeah, I wouldn't want to do things that I don't like. So, but I think there are a lot of people who like to talk about their cows. I know every bull customer that I talk to likes to talk about their cows. And if I get to do that, I mean, I kind of get to do that for a job, right? I get to talk about my cows, my genetics, the beef industry, what steak I'm eating, and how prime or high choice, or what the difference between those. Yeah, I thrive in that. Like, I just get to talk about the things I love.
Now, I want you to think back to your first few years of getting into social media, and probably around that time frame when you were like, okay, I'm going to take this a little more seriously. What would you do differently if you could do that again?
I would have asked a lot more questions from people who were already doing it, because that's really, once I started doing that, is where I learned the most of just what to watch out for, or where to get get yourself in trouble online, because it's easy to be called out if you say one thing wrong. That's up for people to see, and you lose trust. I think that's what I would tell myself, be like, hey, whatever you post, like, you make sure that statistically it's right, that your data is correct, that whatever you're posting is correct. Because if there is something wrong, people will find it and they will let you know, and then they're going to hold it against you. So I think anybody who's ever done this has found something like that. If you've been in it very long, it's like riding horses. Like, if you've ridden a lot of horses, you have fallen off before. And so I think it's the same way with social media. But getting past that is just another part of the job. Like, yeah, I got to learn from this. I got to make sure that the next time I post, my data is right. I think that's what I would say, and I would probably tell that myself then too, to not be as serious, because I do my best when I am myself, which is like half serious and half humor and very sarcastic. And so my videos do best when I do that. And probably because people can read through any BS online. They can read through it when you're not acting like yourself. People can see it. They don't like that. So the more I am myself in the videos that I create, it helps me and I have more fun doing it.
Absolutely. I think that's especially true if you've been following someone for a while and all of a sudden, if they post something that's just a little off, you can tell pretty quick because you're not as drawn to it because you're following them for a reason. So, is there a platform that you prefer?
It goes back to the competition thing between these platforms as they are competing against each other to get my time to post my stuff there. So it changes. And right now it's going to make me sound kind of old, but Facebook is kind of my favorite right now. It's where I have the most traction. It's where I get the most shares, likes. It's the platform that pays me the most, and that makes it pretty easy for me to like because of that. TikTok used to be like I love TikTok's ability to be able to reach lots and lots of people very quickly. It doesn't form much of a community, but it does form lots and lots of views. Instagram is probably the one that I spend most of my time on as a scroller, but like for creating content, I think Facebook is probably what I enjoy the most. But it's easy for the one that I dislike the most, which is X. I stay away from that pit hole of misery and everyone who's on it.
I actually appreciate you saying that because I don't know how many times in the past 6 years of me podcasting, people have said, you got to get on X, you got to get on X. And every time I do it, it's a big red X for me. I, there are some people where they have their community there. I have not found mine. So, yeah, I actually agree. I like Facebook a lot.
Yeah, it does a good job. And it didn't used to. 2 years ago, it wasn't doing near as well for me. Maybe I just learned how to use it better. But yeah, I think as those platforms change things and trying to compete, as Facebook's trying to compete with TikTok and with YouTube, as they make some changes, I just try to follow those and find my niche and, our community, like you just mentioned, our people. And right now, those are, as of the past probably 6 months, I've just kind of leaned into that Facebook as it's pulled me that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook, I think, gets a bad rap for being something that, maybe our parents' generation is more tied to, but I don't see that with the numbers or interaction or anything, actually. I mean, but I guess, Tucker, is there anything else we haven't touched on that you think is important to highlight today?
I mean, I kind of talked about the monetary value it can bring, and I think people really, I mean, it is funny whenever they hear me say that they're maybe not the amount of money that I'm making, but the changes that it's allowed me to do. And they're like, "Oh, your wife can stay home from you making videos," and that's just like a blows their mind. And I'm like, "Yes," and you have a family member that's wanting to come back to the ranch, and they can ranch every day and create this and market for your ranch, and you can also bring another generation back. And as we look at other generational families, that's something that we see all the time. Like that next generation comes in and they bring something that either brings more value or cuts the ranch in half again. And the ones that we see make it are very entrepreneurial in the way that they see things, and they try to bring business back to the ranch. And as much as I love cows, kids, and quarter horses. Like I get to combine the things I love in media and ranching, and we can combine that with a lot of things. Like I was combining hunting and ranching for a long time. I was combining being social and ranching with marketing and going to conventions, and I don't know, sometimes we just put ourselves in a box and we say we can't get out of there. But for someone who's looking to try to bring that next generation back, there's just so much opportunity there. It is a long-term game. I will say that. It doesn't happen overnight. Like, as you know, Shay, you've been doing your podcast for how many years now? Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? 6 years already. And I've been doing social media for 4, and I just now feel like I'm like getting some really good traction. 2 years ago, I probably would have said the same thing, but we get to those levels that you were talking about of, when I hit $50 a month, I was like, whoo, boy, I'm getting some traction. And it just kind of keeps growing as I stuck with it, stayed committed.
Now, one thing we didn't touch on is this social media presence has also brought on speaking engagements for you as well.
Yeah, good point. The speaking has been really fun. Both my parents are very talented speakers. They were both national FFA presidents, and so growing up, I had no choice but to do all the speaking events in school and in FFA and in 4-H, and super thankful for it now because in a world of communicators, in a world that is hungry for communication, there's very few communicators. And so it's been really easy for me to fall into that role, whether it's on social media, whether it's announcing rodeos, announcing football games, being an MC at an event, and then speaking. And golly, speaking, as I look back at the 30,000 foot view of what I do for speaking, someone calls me and asks me to speak for 45 minutes about the things that I love. They will fly me there. They will pay me. I get to bring my family. I eat all their food and I drink all their drinks. Like, that shouldn't be a job, but it has been so cool because I've gotten to travel to places that I would have never gone to before. West Palm Beach, Moses Lake, Washington. I'm going to Wisconsin in February, a couple places in Oklahoma. And golly, it has just been so cool just because I'm willing to speak and they appreciate the way that I can speak. And that's also been a growing thing. Like, it took me, I spoke for free at multiple college ag schools. I think it was 5 times before I got my first speaking gig. And my first speaking gig was from one of the professors at West Texas A&M who had heard me give that talk to her college class for free. They gave me some pizza. So, not free, but they gave me some pizza. So, spoke there, spoke at those schools 5 times, and then one of the professors was on a board, and they were looking for a speaker, and so I got my first paid gig, and that was just like, oh, just because of social media, I've been able to add and now a podcast, now a YouTube channel, now some merchandise, some speaking, and that's why I've had to hire somebody because the time commitment and taking care of all of those things in a way that it should be has been challenging. And I don't want to leave the ranch more than I already am because I am now leaving the ranch more than I ever have since I've been back. And I know that if I lose my touch from the ranch, that I will lose what I have to share on social media.
So, with all that, one thing we haven't touched on is what advice do you have for individuals when they might first be approached about a paid opportunity or a brand partnership and setting that price versus doing stuff for free, and kind of how they can have the confidence to do that?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I was kind of a stickler of working with people who I already use or can include in my stuff very easily. For example, like I've worked with people like Case Knives. I've worked with Pendleton Whiskey. I've worked with a feed company. I work with clothing company, a truck bed company. Like, all of those things I use on the ranch. And I've actually made one deal. It was like a beef. It was a type of beef bar that I thought that I could add into my stuff really easily, and I just couldn't, and I didn't like it, and I didn't like posting about it, and it took all the fun away of the posting. And I think they were paying me $25 a post, which that was at the very beginning, and I just thought it was cool that I was getting paid. And so now, looking back, yeah, if I could tell myself like, hey, just stick with the things that you already use, with companies you believe in. All of that is so important because we have this, people follow us because they either trust us or hate us, or they laugh at our content. And so I don't want to take that away from people who give me a follow. Like, that means a lot to me. And so performing or representing my page correctly and telling them the truth about the products that I use is extremely important. And I think that's the long game because I had Jess Pryles. She is an Australian live fire chef. She does hardcore carnivores. Her company, she does a phenomenal job with it. And I'd kind of created this funny political video. And she called me and she said, "Hey, your video is funny, but I'm going to, like, as a friend, I'm going to tell you to take it down." And I was like, "What do you mean? Take it down?" And she was like, "I get it. It's funny. It's for your niche. But how long do you plan on doing this?" And I was like, "Long time. I mean, I don't plan on stopping." She was like, "Okay, so 10 years from now, if you get the job of your, the dream job of working with the Dallas Cowboys or with Ford Trucks or a massive company like that, and they go back and they see a video that was funny, was a little bit political, that everybody has to agree on, that would take me out of that pool." And so I'm super thankful for Jess for telling me that, to really just stay in my lane. My lane is not politics. My lane is to share maybe some policies of what's going on, but not political side. And she just encouraged me so hard to play the long game. And that's what I would tell anybody. Like, if you're in it for the likes and views and you want to get paid $100 to share a song or $50 to share about a beef bar, go ahead. But if you want to be doing this a long time, I mean, represent yourself in a way that other companies want to be a part of you.
That's very insightful, and it's good that you have Jess to step in and tell you that, because it's hard to step up and tell a friend that.
Oh, I know. And I think it was a little bit of the Australian in her too. She didn't mind telling me that it was kind of dumb for me. I mean, she did tell me the truth. She's like, "That's funny, but for your job, you ought to take it down." And she was right. Like, I was like, "Okay, if you can tell me why, I don't understand why you want me to take it down, but if you can tell me why, I'll take it down." And sure enough, yeah, I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. I'll take it down. Got to play the long game."
Well, Tucker, I really appreciate your time today and your honesty and your experience and journey with social media, and just sharing the advice for people who are interested in either excelling their own social media platforms or starting from scratch. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Shay. Again, it's so fun to share about what I get to do. And thanks for having your podcast for 6 years now. And congrats on that.
Thank you. Well, and folks, when you're done listening to this episode, go over to Registered Ranching, because Tucker Brown also has his own podcast there. And of course, that podcast and the social media links will be linked in the description as well, along with any other resources that were mentioned throughout today's show. So remember, the best way to support this podcast and all your other favorite podcasts is to leave a rating or review, and better yet, share it with a friend who would find it valuable, because word of mouth is the best way for podcasts to grow. But with that, happy ranching, folks.